Businesswoman throws coffee in homeless woman's face. Minutes later, the CEO arrives. Jessica Matthews was late for the most important meeting of her career when she saw that woman approaching again. It was the third time that week the same lady had tried to ask for help at the entrance of the corporate building. The hot coffee spilled from the cup and hit Ms. Dorothy square in the face. The elderly woman, her grey hair hidden under a worn-out cap, brought her hands to her face as the liquid dripped down her deep wrinkles. Jessica shouted that she was tired of this situation, that she paid taxes precisely so she wouldn't have to deal with beggars blocking her path every day. Employees coming in and out of the building stopped to watch the scene, some recording with their phones, but no one dared to intervene. "Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Every day it's the same thing." Jessica adjusted her designer bag on her shoulder. "Go find a job instead of bothering people who actually work." Ms. Dorothy tried to wipe her face with the sleeve of her tattered jacket, but her hands were shaking too much. The coffee was still hot, and her sensitive skin burned. Even so, she didn't respond to the insults, just lowered her head and took a step back. That's when the silver Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of the building. Jessica immediately recognized the car of Michael Thompson, the company's CEO. He rarely appeared at the New York City office, preferring to manage everything from his penthouse in Greenwich, Connecticut. His presence there could only mean one thing. The merger with the American multinational was about to be finalized. Michael stepped out of the car, and his eyes immediately locked onto the scene. Jessica straightened her posture, ready to greet him, but he walked right past her. The CEO knelt beside Ms. Dorothy, pulling a silk handkerchief from the pocket of his Italian suit. "Dorothy, is that really you?" His voice trembled in a way Jessica had never heard in the 5 years she'd worked at the company. "Michael? My boy." The woman touched his face with a shaky hand. Jessica felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. She looked from one to the other, trying to process what was happening. The powerful Michael Thompson, the man who made multinational presidents tremble during negotiations, was kneeling on the sidewalk, gently wiping a homeless woman's face. "What have they done to you?" Michael looked around until his eyes landed on Jessica. The executive had never seen such contained fury in a single glance. "Mr. Thompson, I can explain," Jessica began, but he cut her off with a gesture. "My office. Now." He helped Ms. Dorothy to her feet. "And you're coming with me, Dorothy. We'll take care of this." "You don't have to, my son. I'm fine." The woman tried to step away, but Michael held her arm gently. "Please, let me help you this time." Jessica followed them to the executive elevator, her mind racing. How did that homeless woman know Michael Thompson? And why did he call her so familiarly? The ride to the top floor felt like an eternity. Michael kept Ms. Dorothy steady the whole time, murmuring words of comfort Jessica couldn't make out. When the doors opened on the executive floor, the assistant nearly dropped the coffee cup she was holding. Seeing the CEO accompanied by a homeless woman was something no one could have predicted. "Jennifer, call Dr. Richard immediately. I want him here in 10 minutes. Michael guided Ms. Dorothy to the leather sofa. "And bring water, clean towels, and the first aid kit." "Yes, sir." Jennifer rushed off. Jessica remained frozen near the door, unsure whether to sit or stay standing. Michael knelt again beside Ms. Dorothy, examining the burns forming on her face. "This will leave a mark," he murmured. "Why didn't you come to me, Dorothy? Why are you living on the streets?" "Life takes turns, my son. Not all of them are upward." She touched his face again. "You've grown so much. You look so elegant." Michael held her hand, and Jessica could see tears in the eyes of the man, known for his coldness in negotiations. "You saved my life, and I let this happen to you." "You didn't let anything happen. Everyone has their own path." Jennifer returned with everything Michael had asked for. He himself began carefully cleaning Ms. Dorothy's face, applying cold compresses to the most affected areas. Jessica watched in disbelief. In all her years working there, she had never seen Michael show such care for anyone. "Jessica Matthews." His voice snapped her out of her thoughts. "Sit down." She obeyed, choosing the farthest chair. "Do you know who this woman is?" Michael didn't take his eyes off Ms. Dorothy as he spoke. "No, sir. She's been coming here for a few weeks asking for help." "Asking for help." he repeated slowly. And your response was to throw hot coffee in her face. Mr. Thompson, I was late for the meeting with the Americans. She was blocking the entrance and she was asking for help. Michael finally looked at Jessica. This woman's name is Dorothy Wilson. 35 years ago, she found me sleeping under an overpass. I had run away from home. My stepfather beat me every day. I was 12 and had decided living on the streets was better than taking one more hit. Jessica swallowed hard. She had never heard anything about Michael Thompson's past. Everyone knew he had built his empire from scratch, but the details had always been a mystery. Dorothy worked as a music teacher at a public school. She had no obligation to stop and help a dirty, hungry street kid, but she did. She took me to her home, gave me food, clean clothes, enrolled me in the school where she worked. Michael turned back to Miss Dorothy. She taught me piano, you know. Said music soothes the soul, and she was right. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Michael, you don't have to... Miss Dorothy tried to interrupt, but he continued. I lived with her for 3 years. She never had children. Her husband died young. She treated me as if I were her own son, taught me discipline, respect, showed me I could be someone in life. When I turned 18 and got my first job, I promised I'd repay her one day for everything she did for me. Dr. Richard arrived and began examining Miss Dorothy. The burns were superficial, but at her age, any injury required special care. As the doctor worked, Michael turned fully to Jessica. You're one of our most promising executives. Your performance these past years has been exemplary, but there's something the numbers don't show. He walked to the window overlooking the city. You're afraid, Jessica, deeply afraid of going back to who you were. Her blood ran cold. How did he know? You grew up in the South Bronx. Your mother was a maid, your father left when you were 7. You studied on scholarship at private schools, worked since you were 14 to help at home. Michael turned to face her. You built this persona of a ruthless executive to make sure you'd never be in need again. How did you... I make it a point to know the history of all my executives, especially those who, like me, came from nothing. He sat back down. What impresses me is how well you've erased your past. She changed the way she spoke, dressed, and acted. She created a Jessica Matthews who had nothing to do with the girl from the South Bronx. Jessica felt the tears burning her eyes but refused to let them fall. She had worked too hard to maintain that image. The problem, Michael continued, is that when we deny who we were, we lose the ability to see others. Dorothy asked for help and all you could see was a threat to the image you built. I didn't know who she was. And if you had, would you have acted differently? Michael shook his head. It doesn't matter who she is to me. What matters is that she's a human being asking for help. Dr. Richard finished tending to Miss Dorothy and prescribed some medication. Michael asked Jennifer to arrange everything immediately. Now, Michael stood up. You're going to find a place for Dorothy to stay. A good place, and you'll make sure she has everything she needs. But sir, I have the meeting with the Americans in an hour. Cancelled. Your priority now is taking care of the woman you assaulted. He picked up the phone. Jennifer, cancel all of Jessica Matthews' meetings this week. She has a special project. Jessica felt desperation take over. This was the most important week of the year, the negotiations that would define the company's future. Mr. Thompson, please. I've worked for months on this project. And now you'll work on another. Michael knelt beside Miss Dorothy again. You'll find a safe place for her, not just any shelter, a dignified place. And you'll find out how she ended up in this situation. I want a full report. Michael, you don't need to do all this, Miss Dorothy protested weakly. Yes, I do. I failed you once. I won't fail you again. Jessica realized she had no choice. She nodded and approached Miss Dorothy. Ma'am, Miss Dorothy, forgive me, I don't know what came over me. The elderly woman looked at her with tired but kind eyes. Life hardens us, my dear. Sometimes so much that we forget how to be soft inside. Jessica felt a lump in her throat. How long had it been since anyone called her my dear? Her own mother had passed 3 years ago, and she'd barely had time to say goodbye, too busy with a major acquisition. "I'll find a place for you to stay, I promise." "Jessica," Michael called as she headed for the door. "I want you to understand something. This isn't punishment, it's an opportunity. Opportunity to remember who you are, underneath all that corporate polish." Jessica left the room, her head spinning. In just minutes, her life had been turned upside down. The meeting she'd worked on for months was cancelled, her reputation likely ruined by the videos surely circulating online, and now she had to care for a homeless woman. But there was something else. Michael's words echoed in her mind. The fear of going back to who she was. When had Jessica Matthews from the South Bronx died to make way for Jessica Matthews, the successful executive? She took the elevator down to the lobby. She had to start somewhere. The security guard, Mr. Johnson, might know something about Ms. Dorothy. He saw everyone who came and went. "Mr. Johnson, do you know that woman who asks for help out front?" The guard, a man in his 60s, looked at her skeptically. "The one you threw coffee on?" News traveled fast here. "Yes, her. I need to find her. I need to know more about her." "Ms. Dorothy is good people. Showed up about 3 weeks ago. Always polite. Never pushes when someone says no." Mr. Johnson shook his head. "What you did was ugly, Dr. Matthews." "I know. That's why I want to make it right." "Do you know where she stays?" "Usually spends the night under the overpass nearby. There's a group that stays there. But it's no place for you to go alone." Jessica looked at her Rolex watch. Noon. She had all day to sort this out. "Could you accompany me after your shift?" Mr. Johnson studied her for a moment. "Are you serious? You want to go there, under the overpass?" "I need to understand her situation." "Mr. Thompson asked for a full report." "Ah, so that's why." The security guard seemed disappointed. "No, it's not just that." Jessica surprised herself with her honesty. "I was cruel. I need to make it right." Mr. Johnson nodded slowly. "I finish at 6. I'll meet you here." Jessica spent the rest of the day making calls. Hotels, boarding houses, retirement homes. Most wouldn't even listen when she mentioned it was for a homeless woman. The few that accepted charged outrageous prices or had deplorable conditions. Frustrated, she remembered something. Years ago, when she still lived with her mother, there was a place in the neighborhood. A home run by a woman who took in women in difficult situations. Could it still exist? A few calls later, she discovered it did. Hope Haven House was still operating, now managed by the founder's daughter. Jessica scheduled a visit for the next day. At 6 sharp, she met Mr. Johnson at the front desk. She had swapped her pantsuit for jeans and sneakers, something she hadn't worn in years. "Are you sure about this?" he asked once more. "I am. Let's go." The overpass was a 10-minute walk. Jessica knew the route. She drove past it every day. But walking was different. She saw things the speed of a car didn't allow. People sleeping on cardboard, children playing amid trash, the smell of sewage mixed with exhaust fumes. "It's here, Mr. Johnson pointed to a group under the overpass. Jessica took a deep breath and approached. About 20 people were there, some sleeping, others chatting in small groups. A man played guitar while a woman sang an old song. "Good evening," Jessica greeted, feeling entirely out of place. Everyone stopped what they were doing to look at her. She recognized the suspicion in their eyes. How many times had she looked at someone the same way? "I'm looking for information about Ms. Dorothy, the woman you insulted this morning." A young woman stood up, defensive. "Yes, and I came to apologize and help." "Now you want to help? After humiliating her in front of everyone?" The woman stepped closer. "Do you know how long it's been since Ms. Dorothy had a proper meal? Do you know she shares what little food she gets with others here?" Jessica felt the weight of the accusation. No, she knew none of that. "That's why I'm here. To understand. To really help." "Ms. Dorothy was a teacher," an elderly man spoke from the back. "Or used to be, taught music, piano, violin, those fancy things." "What happened?" Jessica moved toward him. "Life, miss. Life happened." The man shrugged. Husband got sick, spent everything caring for him. After he died, she lost the house to medical bills. Relatives disappeared. Too old, no one wants to hire her. Ended up here. Jessica felt a chill. The story was all too common. How many Dorothys were out there? Does she have family? Children? Never had children of her own, the young woman answered, still wary. But she took care of plenty. Lots of people out there she helped when she was teaching. But you know how it is, right? When someone falls, everyone vanishes. Except one, Jessica murmured, thinking of Michael. What? Nothing. Do you know if she has any documents? Personal belongings? She keeps a suitcase over there. The man pointed to a corner where a few belongings were piled. But don't touch it. She doesn't have much, but what she has means something. Jessica nodded. She had no intention of touching anything. What time does she usually come back? Don't know if she's coming back today, the young woman said. You took her. That Michael Thompson guy, we saw it online. Everyone filmed you throwing coffee on her. Jessica lowered her head. The shame burned hotter than any scalding coffee. He's taking care of her. He is like a son to her. So it's true. The elderly man stepped closer. She always talked about a boy she raised, someone who became important. We thought she was imagining things. It's true. Michael Thompson lived with her as a teenager. She saved his life. The mood shifted slightly. People seemed to relax a little. If he's so important, why did he let her get to this point? The young woman challenged. Jessica had no answer. It was the same question Michael had asked himself. Sometimes we lose touch with people. Life pulls us apart. Jessica thought of her own mother, how she drifted away in her final years. Yeah, life does that, the old man agreed. But Miss Dorothy never lost her grace. Even here, she kept her dignity. Teaches the kids when she can, tells stories, plays improvised instruments. Instruments? Yeah, she makes things out of cans, strings, stuff like that. Says music doesn't need expensive instruments. It needs soul. Jessica's eyes welled up. That woman, even in the hardest circumstances, was still a teacher. Do you think she'd accept leaving here, going somewhere better? Listen, miss, the young woman sighed. Miss Dorothy is proud. She won't take easy charity. If you really want to help, it's got to be with respect. She's not some rich people's project to ease their guilt. The blow landed perfectly. Wasn't that exactly what Jessica was doing? Trying to clear her conscience, save her job. You're right, Jessica admitted. I started this for the wrong reason, but now I want to do it right, not for me, for her. Mr. Johnson touched her shoulder. Dr. Jessica, it's getting late. It's not safe to stay here too long. Jessica looked around one last time. These people, each with their own story, their losses, their struggles. How long had it been since she'd seen real people? Just numbers, targets, results. Thank you for talking to me. I'll do everything I can to help Miss Dorothy. And if you need anything. What we need is respect, miss, the old man said. Food helps, blankets help, but respect, that's worth more than anything. Jessica nodded and walked away with Mr. Johnson. On the way back, she stayed silent, processing everything. Are you all right, ma'am? Mr. Johnson asked when they reached the building. I don't know, Mr. Johnson. I think I haven't been all right for a long time, and I only realized it today. The security guard smiled knowingly. Sometimes we need a good shake to wake up, huh? Jessica agreed. When she got home to her luxurious Upper East Side apartment, she felt the emptiness of the place for the first time. 3 bedrooms, 2 suites, a park view, and her there, alone, with no one to share any of it. She picked up her phone and, for the first time in 3 years, looked at old photos with her mother. Mrs. Brown had always been proud of her, of the daughter who'd made it in life. But had she really made it? What was winning anyway? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us newcomers. Now, continuing. The next morning, Jessica arrived at the office determined. She'd spent the night researching, making calls, drafting a plan. Jennifer informed her that Miss Dorothy was at a nearby hotel under a nurse's care. Mr. Thompson asked for you to see her as soon as you arrived. Jessica went straight to the hotel. a discreet but comfortable place. She found Miss Dorothy sitting by the window watching the street below. "Good morning, Miss Dorothy." The woman turned, her face still showing traces of the hot coffee. "Jessica, Michael said you'd come. How are you feeling?" "Like an old woman who slept in a real bed after months." Miss Dorothy smiled faintly. "Strange." Jessica sat in the chair beside her. "I went to the overpass yesterday, talked to some people." "Did you now? And what did you think of my palace?" There was bitter humor in her voice. "I think you're an incredible woman. Even in that situation, you're still teaching, still helping others." "What else can I do? We are who we are, no matter where we are." "You're right." Jessica took a deep breath. "That's why I need to apologize, not just for yesterday, but for who I became, for forgetting where I came from." Miss Dorothy studied her with those wise eyes. "You came from nothing too, didn't you? South Bronx, mom was a maid, absent father, the usual story. And you got out. That's good, my dear. Don't be ashamed of what you've achieved." "But I'm ashamed of who I became in the process." Jessica felt the tears finally fall. "I turned hard, cold. I forgot how to be human." Miss Dorothy reached out and touched Jessica's face. "There's still time to remember." Jessica held the woman's hand, feeling the rough skin, calloused by life. "I found a place. Hope Haven House. It's in Astoria, run by a very kind woman. Private rooms, 3 meals a day, activities. You could even teach music there." "Jessica, please don't refuse. It's not charity, it's justice. You've taken care of so many people. Let someone take care of you now." Miss Dorothy was silent for a long moment. "And what does Michael think about this?" "I haven't talked to him yet. I wanted to see if you'd accept first." "You've changed overnight." "I didn't change. I think I just remembered." Jessica wiped her tears. "My mother died 3 years ago. I was so busy being important that I barely spent time with her in her last days. When I see you, I think of her. I think of all the chances I missed to be better." "Don't torture yourself, child. The past is gone, but the future isn't." Jessica squeezed her hand. "Please accept. Don't do it for me or Michael. Do it for yourself." Miss Dorothy looked out the window again. Below, life moved at its frantic pace. People rushing, cars honking. The city that never stops. "You know, I taught for 40 years. Gave music lessons to thousands of children. Some became professional musicians. Others never played again after graduating. But they all carried a little music in their souls." She smiled. "Michael was different. He didn't want to learn music. He wanted to learn how to survive. Music was just the path. And he learned. He learned too well. Closed himself off so much to avoid pain that he forgot how to live. Like you." Jessica nodded. It was true. She and Michael were alike in that way. "I'll accept your offer," Miss Dorothy said finally, "but on one condition." "What?" "You'll visit me every week, and we'll talk about life, about the choices we've made, about the people we were and who we are now. I promise. And one more thing." Miss Dorothy stood. "I want my suitcase. There are things in it that matter to me." "Of course. We'll get it today." The two spent the morning talking. Jessica learned that Miss Dorothy had been a concert pianist before becoming a teacher. She'd traveled across the United States performing with orchestras, met incredible people, lived stories that sounded like fiction. "Why did you stop?" Jessica asked. "I met my husband, David. He was a doctor, worked in the countryside. I chose love over career, never regretted it. We had 30 wonderful years together. And when he got sick? Cancer. We fought for 5 years, sold everything, tried every treatment. In the end..." Miss Dorothy paused. "In the end, he left in peace. But I was left with the debts, without a home, without family. Age wasn't on my side. Suddenly, I found myself on the streets." Jessica felt the anger growing inside her. How could the system fail someone who had contributed their whole life so badly? "It's outrageous. That's life, my dear. There's no use being angry. We do what we can with what we have." Jessica's phone rang. It was Michael. "How is she?" "Good. We talked a lot. She agreed to go to Hope Haven House." "Great. I want to see her later. And Jessica?" "Yes?" Thank you. You're doing the right thing. Jessica hung up and looked at Ms. Dorothy. He wants to see you later. My boy. The woman's eyes sparkled. You know, he was terrible at playing in the beginning. Had no patience, wanted to learn everything at once. But he was determined. He'd spend hours practicing even when his fingers hurt. Does he still play? I don't know, it's been so long. Ms. Dorothy sighed. After he left home, we'd meet now and then. But then he started climbing the ladder, got busy. I understand. Life takes its toll. Jessica thought about how relationships faded over time. How many friends had she left behind in her own climb? In the afternoon, they went to pick up Ms. Dorothy's suitcase. Jessica convinced 2 building security guards to go with them. The people under the overpass greeted Ms. Dorothy with joy and concern. It's all right, everyone, she reassured them. I'll be staying somewhere for a while, but I'll come back to visit. Is that lady treating you right? The young woman from the day before asked, eyeing Jessica suspiciously. She is, Brittany. Jessica is a good person, just lost, like we've all been at some point. Jessica helped Ms. Dorothy with her suitcase. It was an old leather one, worn out and covered in stickers from different places. This suitcase traveled the United States with me, Ms. Dorothy explained. Each sticker is a city where I played. Inside were few clothes but many sheet music pieces, old photos, a broken metronome, and a small electronic keyboard that no longer turned on. My treasures, she said simply. On the way back, Jessica stopped at a music store. What are you doing? Ms. Dorothy asked. Just a minute. Jessica went in and came out with a new keyboard, small but good quality. I can't accept. It's not a gift. It's a work tool. You'll be teaching at Hope Haven, remember? Ms. Dorothy looked at the keyboard, tears rolling down her face. It's been so long. It's never too late to start again. When they arrived at Hope Haven House, they were greeted by Mrs. Carter, the administrator, a woman in her 60s with a warm smile and motherly demeanor. Welcome, Ms. Dorothy. Jessica told me a bit about you. I hear you're a music teacher. I was. It's been a while since I taught. Well, we have several residents here who'd love to learn, if you're willing, of course. Jessica helped Ms. Dorothy settle into her room. It was simple but clean, with a comfortable bed, a wardrobe, a desk, and a window overlooking a garden. It's perfect, Ms. Dorothy said, sitting on the bed. I'll let you get settled. I'll come back tomorrow, all right? Jessica, Ms. Dorothy called before she left. Thank you, truly. Jessica smiled and left. In the hallway, she saw Michael arriving. How is she? Good. I think she'll be happy here. Michael nodded and went into the room. Jessica stayed outside but could hear the conversation. My boy, forgive me, Dorothy. I should have looked for you, should have stayed in touch. Shh. There's nothing to forgive. You lived your life, as you should have. But you needed me, and I wasn't there. You're here now. That's what matters. Jessica stepped away, giving them privacy. She found Mrs. Carter in the common room. Jessica, can I say something? Of course. What you did today. I saw the change in you from when you called yesterday to now. That's not common. I needed to wake up. Ms. Dorothy woke me up. Sometimes we need a mirror to see who we really are. Mrs. Carter smiled. Welcome back to humanity. Jessica laughed, a little awkwardly. It felt strange to be human again after so long as a corporate machine. When Michael left the room, his eyes were red. She's resting. She said tomorrow she wants to play the new keyboard. That's good. The two walked silently to the car. Jessica, what did you find out about how she ended up in this situation? Jessica shared everything she had learned about her sick husband, the medical debts, losing her home. It's unacceptable, Michael murmured. Someone who contributed so much to society being abandoned like this. Unfortunately, it's more common than we think. We're going to change that. Michael looked at her. I want you to create a project, something to help seniors in vulnerable situations. Use the company's structure, our contacts, resources. Sir, Thompson Enterprises will establish a social division, and you'll lead it. He smiled. Unless you'd rather go back to mergers and acquisitions. Jessica thought for a moment. The Jessica from 2 days ago would have chosen mergers without hesitation, but something had changed. I accept the challenge, but I'll need help. I don't know anything about the non-profit sector. You'll learn just like you learned everything about finance. Michael got into the car. Oh, and Jessica, the meeting with the Americans has been rescheduled for next week. I want you there. But as the new Jessica, not the old one. He drove off, leaving Jessica standing on the sidewalk. New Jessica. Was it really possible to change like that, or was she just fooling herself? In the following days, Jessica immersed herself in a new world. She visited non-profits, spoke with social workers, studied public policies for seniors. It was like learning a new language. Ms. Dorothy, meanwhile, flourished at Hope Haven House. Within a week, she was already giving music lessons to the other residents. Jessica visited her daily, always learning something new. "You know what your problem is," Ms. Dorothy said one day, as Jessica helped her organize sheet music. "You think you have to choose between being successful and being human. Isn't that how it is?" "Of course not. Michael is successful, and he's here visiting me every day. Real success is when you can climb up and bring others with you." Jessica reflected on that. Her whole life had been a solitary climb. Now she was starting to understand it could be different. By the week of the meeting with the Americans, Jessica was nervous. How could she balance the executive she needed to be with the person she was discovering? "Just be yourself," Ms. Dorothy advised. "The real you, not the one you invented." On the day of the meeting, Jessica walked into the conference room with a different kind of confidence. Not the arrogance of before, but a genuine assurance. She presented the numbers, projections, and strategies, but she also spoke about social responsibility, the merger's impact on local communities, and how they could create value beyond just financial gains. The Americans were surprised. They were used to executives who only talked about profit. "Is this a new direction for Thompson Enterprises?" the American CEO asked. "It's the right direction," Michael answered, "led by Jessica Matthews, our new Director of Corporate Social Responsibility." Jessica nearly choked. Director. Michael hadn't mentioned a promotion. The meeting was a success. Not only did the Americans accept the terms, but they also expressed interest in participating in the social projects. Afterward, Michael called Jessica into his office. "Congratulations, Director. Mr. Thompson, Michael, you can call me Michael, and accept the promotion. You've shown more personal growth in 2 weeks than some do in a lifetime." "It was Ms. Dorothy. She taught you to look, but the change was your choice." Michael went to the piano in his room, a beautiful Steinway that Jessica always thought was just decorative. He sat down and began to play. The melody was simple, but touching. "Schubert," he said. "The first song Dorothy taught me. She said it was about finding beauty in simplicity. It's beautiful. Play with me." "I don't know how." "Dorothy's teaching you, isn't she?" she told me. Jessica blushed. It was true. During her visits, Ms. Dorothy had insisted on teaching her the basics. "I only know the right hand for Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." "It's a start." Jessica sat beside him and hesitantly played the notes she knew. Michael accompanied her with harmony, turning the children's song into something beautiful. "See," he smiled, "it doesn't have to be perfect to be good." In the following months, Thompson Enterprises' social responsibility project grew. Jessica created a program to support vulnerable seniors, starting in New York City, but with plans to expand nationwide. Ms. Dorothy became an unofficial ambassador for the project. Her story inspired other business owners to contribute. Hope Haven House received donations that allowed them to expand their services. One day, Jessica was reviewing reports when Jennifer walked into her office. "Jessica, there's a woman here to see you. She says it's about Ms. Dorothy." Jessica greeted the visitor, a woman in her 40s, well-dressed but with tired eyes. "My name is Rebecca. I think Ms. Dorothy is my mother." Jessica's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "It's a long story. I was adopted as a baby. I've spent my life looking for my birth mother. Recently I found some documents and Rebecca showed old papers. Dorothy Wilson, music teacher. The age matches, the description. Jessica examined the documents. They seemed legitimate. Why would Miss Dorothy have given you up for adoption? According to the papers, she was very young, unmarried. Back then, Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to judge her. I just want to meet her. Jessica thought carefully. Ms. Dorothy had never mentioned a biological daughter. Could it be true? Let's take this slowly. I need to confirm a few things first. Can you come back tomorrow? Rebecca agreed and left. Jessica immediately called Michael and told him the situation. We need to be sure before we talk to Dorothy, he said. I'll have someone look into it discreetly. 2 days later, the confirmation came. Rebecca was indeed Miss Dorothy's biological daughter, given up for adoption at 2 months old. Dorothy had been only 19 at the time. Jessica and Michael went together to speak with Miss Dorothy. We need to talk about something important, Michael began. Miss Dorothy looked at them and somehow seemed to know. It's about Rebecca, isn't it? Jessica was surprised. You know? I always knew she'd find me one day. Miss Dorothy sat down heavily. It's the only thing I regret in my life. But I was so young, alone. I thought I was doing what was best for her. She wants to meet you, Jessica said gently. And I want to meet her. But I'm scared. Miss Dorothy wiped her tears. What if she hates me? What if... She doesn't hate you, Michael assured her. She spent her whole life looking for you. The meeting was set for the next day. Jessica and Michael accompanied Miss Dorothy, offering moral support. When Rebecca entered the room, the air seemed to stand still. Mother and daughter looked at each other, decades of separation weighing between them. Mom? Rebecca whispered. My girl. Miss Dorothy opened her arms. The hug was long, wet with tears. Jessica and Michael quietly stepped out, giving them privacy. It's amazing how life works, Michael remarked. It really is. A month ago, I was a terrible person, throwing coffee on an elderly woman. Today, Jessica paused. Today, I'm part of something bigger. The weeks that followed were about rebuilding. Rebecca visited Miss Dorothy daily, making up for lost time. They discovered they both loved music, and that Rebecca had taught herself piano, following a calling she didn't know where it came from. Jessica watched everything with a mix of joy and melancholy. She thought of her own mother, of the missed opportunities. But Miss Dorothy, in her wisdom, noticed. You can't change the past, my dear, but you can honor her memory by becoming better every day. The social project grew. Jessica discovered she had a talent for mobilizing people, for building bridges between the corporate world and the social one. Executives who once only thought about profit began to see the value of investing in people. A year later, at the inauguration of the Dorothy Wilson Senior Support Center, Jessica gave an emotional speech. A year ago, I was someone who had lost the ability to see people. I only saw obstacles, numbers, goals. Miss Dorothy taught me that success without humanity is just failure in disguise. She looked at Miss Dorothy, seated in the front row between Michael and Rebecca. This center is more than a project. It's a reminder that we can all fall, but we can also rise. And most importantly, we can help others rise. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The center was a success from day one. It offered not just shelter, but dignity. Vocational courses, medical care, cultural activities. Ms. Dorothy led the music program, teaching not just notes, but hope. Jessica completely changed her way of living. She sold her luxurious apartment and bought something smaller, cozier. She used the difference to fund scholarships at the center. She kept in touch with the people from the viaduct, helping when she could, but always with respect. Brittany, the young woman who had confronted her at the viaduct, ended up becoming one of the center's coordinators. She had a natural talent for management and, given the right opportunity, flourished. You know, Brittany said one day, I misjudged you at first. You had every right to. I was awful. No, you were lost. There's a difference. Brittany smiled. We've all been lost. What matters is finding our way back. Michael also changed. He became more open, more human. The piano in his office was no longer just decorative. He played it regularly, sometimes for the staff, sometimes alone, processing emotions he had buried for decades. The bond between Miss Dorothy and Rebecca grew stronger. They discovered Rebecca's husband was a doctor, just like David had been. The similarities were many, as if fate had guided their lives to this reunion. "I want you to meet your grandchildren," Rebecca said one day. Miss Dorothy cried with joy. Grandchildren? She had grandchildren. Meeting the children, a 10-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl, was magical. They immediately fell in love with their new grandmother, especially when she started teaching them piano. Jessica watched these scenes with a warmed heart. Life had its ways. Sometimes you had to fall very low to discover what truly mattered. The Dorothy Wilson Center became a national model. Other companies began creating similar projects. Jessica traveled the country giving talks, always sharing the story of how an act of cruelty turned into a movement of compassion. On one of those trips in Boston, an elderly woman approached her after a talk. "I knew a Jessica Matthews from the South Bronx many years ago. Could that be you?" Jessica froze. It was Mrs. Williams, her mother's friend. "Yes, it's me, Mrs. Williams. Your mother would be so proud. She always said you'd make a difference in the world." Jessica hugged the woman, tears flowing freely. It took me a while to understand what she meant. "What matters is that you did." Mrs. Williams smiled. Mary is smiling down from above. Back in New York City, Jessica found the center buzzing with excitement. Miss Dorothy was going to give a concert, her first in 40 years. It would be at Lincoln Center, with proceeds going to the center. "Are you sure about this?" Jessica asked, concerned. "I am. These fingers still remember the way." Miss Dorothy flexed her hands. "Besides, I won't be playing alone. The concert would be a joint event." Miss Dorothy on the piano, accompanied by an orchestra made up of young musicians from social projects. Michael would be the main sponsor, and Jessica would coordinate the entire production. The rehearsals were intense. Miss Dorothy regained her technique with impressive speed. The young musicians adored her, calling her Grandma Dorothy. "Music never leaves you," she explained. "It stays right here." She pointed to her heart. "You just have to let it flow again." On the night of the concert, the theater was packed. New York's elite mingled with residents from the communities united by music. Jessica watched from backstage, as nervous as if she were the one performing. Michael approached her. "Nervous?" "A little. What if something goes wrong?" "It won't. And even if it does, it doesn't matter. Look at what we've built from a spilled cup of coffee." Jessica smiled. He was right. It had all started with a terrible act and turned into something beautiful. Miss Dorothy walked onto the stage, and the audience erupted in applause. She looked elegant in a navy blue dress, her gray hair styled in a chic bun. Nothing remained of the homeless woman from a year ago. "Good evening," she said into the microphone. "Tonight is about second chances, about the human capacity to reinvent ourselves, to forgive, to start over. I dedicate this concert to everyone who has ever lost their way and found their way back, and especially to two people who saved me when I needed it most, my son by heart, Michael, and my daughter by choice, Jessica." Jessica felt tears streaming down her face. Daughter by choice. That's what she had become. The concert was moving. Miss Dorothy played with her soul, every note filled with history. The young musicians accompanied her with dedication, creating a perfect harmony of experience and youth. During intermission, Rebecca approached Jessica. "Thank you for everything, for finding my mother, for taking care of her. She's the one who took care of me, taught me how to be human again." The second half of the concert held a surprise. Miss Dorothy called Michael to the stage. "This young man said he didn't play anymore. A lie. Let's show them, my son." Michael, blushing, sat at the second piano. Together, teacher and student played the same Schubert piece from their first lesson decades ago. The audience watched in reverent silence. Jessica realized she was witnessing something rare, the circle closing. The street kid who became a businessman, the teacher who lost everything and regained even more, and her, the executive who discovered her humanity. After the concert, at the reception, Jessica mingled with the guests. Many wanted to know about the center, about how to help. She spoke passionately without the corporate detachment of before. "Jessica," Mr. Johnson appeared, looking sharp in his best suit. "What a night, huh? Mr. Johnson, I'm so glad you came. Wouldn't have missed it for the world." He lowered his voice. "You know, I always saw potential in you, even when you were tough as nails. You just needed the right push." Jessica hugged the security guard. How many people had seen past her mask and waited patiently for her to wake up? As the night wore on, Jessica stepped out for air on the theater's terrace. She found Ms. Dorothy there, gazing at the city lights. "It was perfect," Jessica said. "It was life." Ms. Dorothy smiled. "With all its ups and downs. You know what I've learned over the years?" "What?" "That there's no fall we can't rise from, as long as someone reaches out." She took Jessica's hand. "You reached out even after what you did. That takes courage. It took desperation. I was losing my job. At first, maybe, but you went beyond. You could have done the bare minimum. You chose to do your best." The two fell into a comfortable silence, watching the city that never slept. "Jessica, promise me one thing." "What?" "Never forget who you are again. The real Jessica, not the invented one." "I promise." Ms. Dorothy smiled, and the two returned to the hall. The party continued, but now with a different air. It wasn't just a celebration, it was a commitment. Everyone there left touched by the story, thinking about how they could make a difference. In the months that followed, the impact of the concert multiplied. Donations poured in from all sides. The center had to expand, opening units in other parts of the city. Jessica coordinated everything with an energy she didn't know she had. Her personal life changed too. She started dating David, one of the volunteer doctors at the center. He had first known her as the cold executive, witnessed her transformation, and fell in love with the real woman who emerged. "You're inspiring," he said during one of their meetings. "It's not me. It's what we do together." Michael, in turn, created a foundation in Ms. Dorothy's name. The goal was to identify and support children in vulnerable situations, giving them the same opportunities he had. "It's the least I can do," he explained. "Dorothy saved me. How many other children need saving?" Ms. Dorothy became a respected public figure. She gave interviews, appeared on programs, always with the same message: it's never too late to start over, and it's never too early to help someone. One day, Jessica found her at the center teaching piano to a 7-year-old girl. The child was homeless, brought in by one of the educators. "See," Ms. Dorothy told the girl, "the music is inside you. You just have to let it out." The little dirty hands timidly touched the keys, producing disjointed sounds, but Ms. Dorothy smiled as if hearing a symphony. "Remember me at the beginning?" Jessica asked. "I do. Tough on the outside, music trapped inside." Ms. Dorothy winked. "This little one is the same, you'll see." And she was right. The girl, Emily, had natural talent. Within weeks, she was playing simple melodies. Jessica became her informal godmother, ensuring she had access to quality education. Jessica's transformation inspired others in the company. Executives began questioning their priorities, seeking purpose beyond profits. Thompson Enterprises became a success story in corporate social responsibility. At a board meeting, the CFO, known for his obsession with numbers, suggested increasing investment in social projects. "The returns aren't immediate," he explained, "but the impact on the brand, employee motivation, society, it's immeasurable." Jessica smiled. The change was spreading like ripples in water. 2 years after the fateful spilled coffee, Jessica was in her office when Jennifer walked in. "Jessica, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." It was a young woman, no more than 20, holding a baby. "Dr. Jessica, my name is Ashley. I'm homeless. I heard about the center, but I don't have any documents. I don't have anything." Jessica stood up immediately, remembering herself 2 years earlier. The old Jessica would have called security. The Jessica of now saw a person in need. "Calm down, Ashley. We'll figure this out." She picked up the phone. "First, let's make sure you and your baby have a place to stay tonight. Then we'll handle the rest." As she made the arrangements, Jessica thought about how life came full circle. How many Ashleys were out there, just needing someone to see them as human? At the center, Ashley was welcomed with the same kindness everyone received. They discovered she had run away from home due to domestic violence, had no documents, and no prospects. "We'll rebuild your life," Miss Dorothy told her, step by step, like composing a song, one note at a time. Jessica followed the process. Ashley had finished high school and dreamed of becoming a nurse. With support, new documents, and daycare for her baby, she began studying. "Why are you doing this for me?" Ashley asked one day, moved. "Because someone did it for us," Jessica answered. "And because you deserve it. Everyone deserves a chance." The center became an ecosystem of second chances. Formerly homeless people who got back on their feet returned as volunteers. Touched business owners created job opportunities. Professionals offered free services. Brittany, the young woman from under the bridge, graduated with a degree in social work and took over coordinating one of the center's programs. "Remember when you showed up under that bridge?" she said to Jessica at her graduation. "I thought you were just another rich girl trying to feel better about herself. And I was at first. But you changed. You showed me people can change." Brittany hugged her. "Thank you for not giving up." Michael expanded the business internationally, but always kept the social component integrated. Every new country where Thompson Enterprises set up also received a social support center. "It's the Dorothy way of doing business," he joked. Ms. Dorothy, now 73, remained active. She taught classes, coordinated programs, and traveled to give talks. Rebecca often accompanied her, mother and daughter reclaiming decades of lost time together. Ms. Dorothy's grandchildren grew into talented musicians, but more importantly, compassionate people. They grew up watching their grandmother transform lives and absorbed the lesson. "Grandma," her granddaughter asked one day, "why do you help so many people?" "Because I can, my love. And when we can help but don't, we lose a piece of our humanity." Jessica married David in a simple ceremony in the center's garden. Ms. Dorothy played the wedding march. Michael was the best man. But the most moving part was seeing the hall filled with people whose lives had been touched by the project. Formerly homeless people dressed elegantly, business owners and beneficiaries mingling, all celebrating love and transformation. "You're radiant," David whispered during their dance. "I'm whole," Jessica replied. "For the first time in my life, I'm exactly who I'm meant to be." The party lasted late, with Ms. Dorothy and others playing live music. At one point, Jessica found herself at the piano, playing the simple melody she had learned. It wasn't perfect, but it was true. Mr. Johnson approached her during the celebration. "Ms. Jessica, can I tell you something?" "Of course, Mr. Johnson." "You inspired me. I'm retiring next year and I want to work at the center. I still have so much to give." Jessica hugged him, moved. The ripples of change kept spreading. Years passed. The Dorothy Wilson Center model was replicated across the United States. Jessica became a national reference for social responsibility, but never lost the humility Ms. Dorothy had taught her. One winter morning, Jessica received a call. Ms. Dorothy was in the hospital. At 78, her body was beginning to pay the price of a life lived intensely. Jessica rushed there, finding Michael, Rebecca, and the family already gathered. "Don't make those faces," Ms. Dorothy said weakly, but smiling. "I've lived more than I deserved. I had 2 lives, you know. The first ended under that bridge, the second you all gave me." "Don't talk like that," Jessica held her hand. "You still have so much to do." "I've done it, my dear. Now it's your turn." Ms. Dorothy looked at each of them. "Michael, my boy who became a man. Keep helping other lost boys. Rebecca, my daughter found again. The forgiveness you gave me healed wounds I carried for decades. And Jessica, my dear Jessica, I'm here. You were my greatest work, not the successful executive, the woman who allowed herself to be human again." Ms. Dorothy squeezed her hand. "Promise me you'll keep going, that you won't let the center die." "I promise. We'll expand even further. Your name will live forever. I don't want my name to live. I want the spirit to live. The spirit of second chances, of compassion, of seeing people where others see problems, Ms. Dorothy recovered from this crisis, but everyone knew time was precious. Jessica intensified her visits, bringing Emily, the girl she'd found at the center years ago, now a teenage piano prodigy. She plays better than I did at her age, Ms. Dorothy said proudly. You're a wonderful teacher. No, I just show the door. Everyone chooses whether to walk through it. Ms. Dorothy's 80th birthday was celebrated with a grand concert at the center. Musicians from across the country came to honor her. Former students from decades ago appeared to give thanks. The president sent a commendation, but the most moving moment was when all the center's beneficiaries, hundreds of people, sang Happy Birthday. Every face there represented a transformed life. Now that's a gift, Ms. Dorothy said, moved. Jessica organized everything perfectly, but without the corporate coldness of before. Every detail had love. Every choice considered the people involved. During the celebration, Ashley, the young woman who'd shown up with a baby years earlier, approached. Now a nursing graduate, she worked at the center. Dr. Jessica, I wanted to thank you again. You saved my life. It wasn't me, it was a whole network of good people. I just made the connection. You did more than that. You saw me as a person when I couldn't see myself that way anymore. Jessica hugged Ashley, thinking of how many lives intertwined at that center. It was a web of compassion that had started with a spilled coffee. Michael took the stage to give a speech. Ms. Dorothy taught me that success without purpose is failure in disguise. Today, Thompson Enterprises is a billion-dollar company. But our greatest asset isn't on the balance sheet. It's the thousands of lives we've touched through the support centers. He looked at Ms. Dorothy. Thank you for teaching me that true power lies in lifting others. Jessica also spoke, retelling the story of the coffee, but now with the perspective of time. That was the worst and best day of my life. Worst because I saw who I'd become. Best because it was the start of my redemption. She looked at the audience. We all have moments like that. Moments when we can choose to stay on the wrong path or change. Choose change, it's always worth it. The celebration lasted late into the night. Ms. Dorothy, tired but happy, played one last piece on the piano. She chose What a Wonderful World, and everyone sang along. In the following months, Ms. Dorothy grew weaker, but her spirit remained strong. She kept giving advice, guiding projects, inspiring everyone around her. One spring afternoon, Jessica found her in the center's garden watching the children play. They're the future, Ms. Dorothy said. Each of them can become anything, a teacher, a president, or just someone good. All options are valid. You seem thoughtful today. I'm making peace with life. Looking back, I see every fall had a purpose, even the years on the streets. Without them, we wouldn't have the center. You wouldn't have changed. So many lives wouldn't have been touched. It doesn't justify the suffering you went through. No, but it gives it meaning. Ms. Dorothy smiled. That's different. Jessica sat beside her, both watching the center's activity, people coming and going, lives being rebuilt, hope being planted. You know what makes me proudest? Ms. Dorothy asked. What? That you'll keep going. Michael with his foundation, you with the centers, Rebecca carrying music forward. Even when I'm gone, the work continues. Don't talk about leaving, we need you. No, my dear, you needed me. Now you have your own wings. Ms. Dorothy held Jessica's hand. My time is coming to an end. But what a life I've had. 2 chances to make a difference. Not everyone gets that luck. Jessica felt the tears but respected Ms. Dorothy's serenity. It was true. The teacher had fulfilled her mission, and then some. 2 weeks later, Ms. Dorothy passed away in her sleep, peaceful, just as she had lived her final years. Jessica received the news early in the morning and, for the first time in years, allowed herself to weep openly. The wake was held at the center that bore her name. Thousands came to say goodbye. Musicians played non-stop, turning the farewell into a celebration of a life well lived. Michael, visibly shaken, hugged Jessica. She's gone. No. She's in every person we've helped, in every life we've changed. Ms. Dorothy is immortal, Rebecca and the grandchildren played her favorite piece on the piano. The sound echoed through the center, reaching every corner, as if Miss Dorothy were giving one last lesson. The burial was simple, as she had requested, but the tributes continued for days. Stories about Miss Dorothy came from everywhere. Former students from decades ago, people she had helped without anyone knowing, small gestures that changed lives. Jessica took over the general leadership of the centers with even greater determination. Now there were 12 locations in New York City, with plans to expand to other states. Each center kept Ms. Dorothy's spirit alive. Dignity, respect, second chances. A year after Ms. Dorothy's passing, Jessica was in her office when Emily walked in. Now 17, the girl had been accepted to Juilliard with a full scholarship. "I came to thank you, godmother. Without you and Ms. Dorothy, I'd still be on the streets. You earned this with your talent. Talent without opportunity is nothing. You gave me the opportunity." Jessica hugged her goddaughter, proud. Another life transformed, more proof that their work mattered. "Miss Dorothy would be so proud," Jessica said. "She is," Emily smiled. "I feel her every time I play, teaching me to find the music inside me." After Emily left, Jessica walked to the main room of the center. On the wall, a simple plaque read, "Every human being deserves a second chance, Dorothy Wilson." Beneath it, the piano Miss Dorothy used to play. Jessica sat and played the melody she had learned, still simple, still imperfect, but full of meaning. As she played, people gathered. Staff, beneficiaries, volunteers, all silent, sharing the moment. When Jessica finished, the quiet lingered before applause broke out. "Miss Dorothy lives," someone said. And it was true. In every act of compassion, in every helping hand, in every second chance offered, Dorothy Wilson lived on. Jessica returned to her office with a light heart. There were meetings, projects, expansions to plan, but now everything had purpose. Every decision considered people, not just numbers. Her phone rang. A small-town mayor wanted to implement the center's model in their city. "Of course," Jessica answered. "Let's schedule a visit. But remember, it's not just about structure. It's about seeing people where others see problems." As she organized her schedule, Jessica smiled. 2 years ago, she had thrown coffee in an elderly woman's face. Today, she led a national movement for social change. Life really did take unexpected turns. And sometimes the most painful falls led to the highest flights. Outside the window, New York City kept its frantic pace. But inside that center, and in many others across the city, time had a different meaning. It was a time of rebuilding, of hope, of second chances. Jessica picked up the photo she kept on her desk. Her, Ms. Dorothy, Michael, and Rebecca at the teacher's last birthday. Everyone smiling, brought together by an unlikely story of redemption. "Thank you," she whispered, "for teaching me how to be human again." And she continued her work, honoring Ms. Dorothy's memory the only way that truly mattered, by transforming lives, one person at a time. The end. Now tell me what you thought of this story of overcoming and second chances. Do you believe people can really change just like Jessica did? Leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.